My sister has hated me my entire life. She teared down my every hobby, every passion, every little victory. It was like she couldn't stand the sight of me happy, but it wasn't just a sibling rivalry. I recently learned the secret reason behind her cruelty, and the discovery hit me like a ton of bricks, forcing me to make a choice: let her keep stomping all over my life, or finally stand up for myself, starting with banning her from the biggest day of my life. If you've ever had a family member who seems to just get a thrill out of making you miserable, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for a story about how I finally found the courage to reclaim my happiness and ban my sister from my graduation. My name is Lisa, and I'm 17 years old. For as long as I can remember, my sister, who I'll call Maya, has treated me like I was a permanent, unwanted house guest. She's 25, so there's an 8-year age gap, but it felt more like an 8 light year chasm between us ever since I was a little kid. She'd find a way to insult anything I was interested in. I remember excitedly showing her a model rocket I'd spent weeks building. The little fins were perfectly aligned. The paint was pristine. I held it up, beaming, waiting for a compliment. She just stared at it, then let out a sigh and said, "What a nerdy waste of time. Don't you have any normal friends?" The words didn't just hurt, they stung. I felt my face flush with shame. I put the rocket down and never touched it again. It became a pattern. I'd show her a drawing, and she'd say it was childish. I'd tell her I was learning a song on the guitar, and she'd roll her eyes and say it was an overrated instrument. My parents would tell me, "She's just a little jealous, honey," or "That's just how sisters are." But my gut told me it was something deeper, something colder. She didn't just want to be better than me. She wanted me to feel worthless. I was always a shadow in her world. If we were at a family dinner and I'd say something, she'd either ignore me completely or cut me off. She treated me like a fly buzzing around her food, an annoyance to be swatted away for years. I just accepted it. I kept my head down. It was easier to live in a small, quiet world of my own hobbies than to put myself out there and get shot down every single time. It was easier to be invisible than to be mocked then. A couple of months ago, something happened that made everything click into place. I was in the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water while my mom was on the phone with my aunt. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but their voices were loud enough to carry. My aunt was asking about me, and my mom was saying how proud she was of me for getting good grades. And all, then my aunt said something like, "It's so great how close you and Maya are." My mom laughed and corrected her. "Oh, no, you know how Maya is with her. They've never been close. She's always struggled with her being adopted." My heart stopped. I froze, the glass of water trembling in my hand. I was adopted. This was a detail I was never told. I was so young when they brought me home that I just assumed I was born into the family. I had never questioned it. The realization that I was a permanent guest, not a real family member, echoed in my mind, and then my mom's words came next. They were even more horrifying. My aunt had asked, "But why would that make her hate her?" And my mom had said, "She just doesn't see her as a real sister. They aren't blood. She thinks he's just a project." A project, not a person, not a sister. A project my parents took on. It all made sense. The coldness, the mockery, the dismissiveness. It wasn't just a personality quirk. It was a deep-seated belief that I didn't belong. The little girl who built a model rocket wasn't a sibling showing her work. He was an outsider trying to be a part of something he wasn't, and my sister saw it as her duty to keep me in my place. When I finally confronted my parents, they looked so ashamed. They explained that they had planned on telling me when I was older, but that Maya was a child at the time and didn't handle the news well. She thought my parents were bringing home a new baby to replace her, and they never quite got her to see past that. They apologized for not telling me sooner. I told them that it wasn't the fact that I was adopted that bothered me. I was fine with that. It was the fact that my sister had been using it as an excuse to treat me like dirt for over a decade. For the first time in my life, I felt a kind of righteous anger. Not just the usual sadness. I wasn't an annoying little sister. I was a person she had deliberately tried to crush for years. All because she saw me as a stranger in our home a few days ago. My mom asked me who I wanted to invite to my high school graduation ceremony. My mind immediately went to the image of my sister, smiling on the front row, pretending to be a supportive family member while inside. She was mocking me. The thought was sickening. I had a choice to make. I could just let her come. My parents would probably be relieved, but then I wouldn't just be a person walking on stage to get my diploma. I'd be a project in her mind. I'd be a charity case on display. My parents looked at me, waiting, and for the first time in my life, I said the truth out loud. I don't want Maya to be there. I don't want her at the ceremony. My mom looked taken aback, but my dad's face softened with understanding. We get it. He said, we don't care if she's not there, as long as she's still invited to the party afterward, but you have to be the one to tell her. That's the part that had me shaking me. The person who had spent her whole life trying to avoid confrontation. Now, I had to be the one to stand up to her. Me, heart pounded in my chest as I walked into the living room. I found Maya on the couch. Scrolling through her phone, I took a deep breath. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? I asked, my voice a little shaky. She barely looked up. What? She grunted. I just wanted to let you know that I'm inviting people to my graduation ceremony, and I don't want you to come. The silence in the room was deafening. She finally put her phone down and gave me a look of pure shock and disbelief, as if she couldn't believe her own ears. What did you just say to me? She asked. I said, I don't want you to be there. I repeated, my voice now steady. You're invited to the party afterward, but not the ceremony. You're pathetic, she said, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. This is so typical of you. You can't even stand to share the spotlight for one day. What's your problem? And that's when it all came pouring out. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just said it all, one painful, quiet word at a time. My problem, I said, is that my whole life you've looked down on me. I just found out. Why you treat me like a stranger? It's because you think I am one. You don't see me as your sister because I'm not related to you by blood. You don't see me as a person, you see me as a project. She went completely still, her face drained of all color. Who told you that? She whispered, it doesn't matter. I replied, what matters is that it's the truth. You don't see me as family, so why should you be there on the day I celebrate all my hard work? It's not about sharing the spotlight, it's about not wanting a stranger and someone who treats me with such contempt. At my graduation, you can celebrate my graduation from home. She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted around the room, full of a mix of shock and pure rage. She was cornered for the first time in my life. She had no snappy comeback, no cutting remark, no cruel joke. She just sat there, defeated a few minutes. Later, she stormed out of the room without another word. But the look on her face was priceless. It wasn't just anger. It was a combination of utter humiliation and a dawning realization that her cruel little secret was out for years. She had held all the power, and in a single moment, I had taken it all away. I had stood my ground, and in doing so, I had finally, truly graduated into my impersonate. It was a tough conversation, and it probably caused a huge rift in our family. But it was worth it. Standing up for myself felt better than any revenge I could have ever planned. I finally felt a sense of peace. My parents have told me how proud they are of me for my courage, and that's all the validation I need. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this.